well, where are you? This is where you need to be. So get hold of those guys, the ones that are in your teams, your peoples, and let's get them in, get them to watch these. I do see that the numbers of the YouTube videos that people are watching, there's a lot of those YouTube videos are definitely getting some good airtime. I haven't looked over the last week or so.
Yeah, the training that we actually did last week, and anybody that starts by saying that they've brought their two and nothing's happening, or that they're on slow moving boards, we just send them that training. The last time I checked, it had over 3,000 views. So it's a great training, and it really just gives you perspective on focusing on where you're at, not anything that's going on around you. And that is so, so important. Last night we were chatting about how important and how big is your why. Because if your why and your reason for doing this is big enough, you're not going to care about what's happening around you. Yes, we say a minimum of 2 people. And if you land up being on a board that's slow moving and you realize that you're going to need more than 2 people, go back to your why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? How badly do you want this? You only have to put 3 to 6 months of hard graft. Whatever you can, just put everything, all your energy into that. And then just know after 6 months, you smooth sailing. Like, this is a guarantee. If you just put in the work now, you will never look back. And I see Granny's nodding because, she celebrated having a year's worth of pension in the last 6 weeks. That's what she's received. Her pension for a year received because she goes to people in grocery stores while they're shopping with their kids, and she just starts talking to them. And that is how she is getting people to join Gift of Legacy. So personally, I'm actually finding it much easier to speak to people that I don't know really well, because with people that you know really well, it leads us into the training this morning. You want to make them happy. You want to give them all the answers that you possibly can. So I'm just going to go over to you now, Tim, because you know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I hope so. Otherwise, if I don't know what I'm speaking about, I'll make it up as we go along. But Candice, when you're speaking to all of these people, and especially this would go for somebody who's not as experienced as you are, but it still applies. What is your biggest fear when you're actually chatting to the people? What are you worried about when you're speaking to people?
Rejection.
Rejection. What about objections? What about questions, especially if you're new? If you put yourself, so there's a lot of people here who've got a year or more experience in online platforms or networking, whatever you want to call it. And we can maybe answer all the questions, but the training and the whole point of what we're talking about today is to help those people who are very new to this environment move through that fear process of objection handling, question handling. And Candice and Chris have done a phenomenal training session on how to handle objections. So this today is actually a precursor to that. Okay, because a lot of people, Candice, what is, before I actually tuck straight into it, what is one of the biggest fear questions that a new person might have, or objection?
I watched that video you sent me. It was really cool, but now I Googled it and it's a scam. You're being scammed. Don't you know you're being scammed?
Right. I see Mark and a couple other people going, yep, I hate that one. So if somebody says that to you, what's the typical response that we have, Candice?
We try and convince them that it's not a scam. And we try and show them, we've got a great article that we send out that has the comparison of the Ponzi versus pyramid versus. So you'll get into a flap, you'll try to find your phone, you'll try to bring up that article so that you can prove that they are wrong and you're right.
And what is that person who's thrown that objection that you do?
They're just going to get more into the fact that you are wrong and they are right.
There we go. Right. So you get into this vicious cycle, and there's a saying, is a man convinced against his will remains unconvinced still. So exactly what we do, we fall back into that. I loathe it when somebody tells me that, because I think, how brain numb are you? Because if you knew what I knew, you would be thinking the way that I think. But we then get into this defensive mode, and this wall comes up, and then they do, and it becomes an argument, and you get all hot, and then you zoom off, they zoom off, and they think, you see, I know that was a scam. I'm so clever. They feel proud of themselves, and you're thinking, what an idiot. And you're so upset. In the end, it doesn't get anywhere. You've wasted your time.
Sounds like my 3 days talking to my friends. Sounds pretty much right up there.
Right. And in the end, you've ended up by having somebody who's gone out there and who's now going to tell everybody what a scam GL is. That's it. That's what happens. So what if I could show you a way over the next hour where you could teach yourself not to answer the question? So here's the key thing. And I'm going to change my screen. I'm going to draw some things. And Candice is going to come back. Candice is going to come back just now. You don't need to answer all the questions, because typically the question that they ask you or the objection they might give you is not actually the real question. Right? They'll say to you, exactly what Candice says, it's a pyramid, a Ponzi. That's not really their objection. They're just saying, I don't believe you. Right. So it's about their personal belief. So sometimes to answer the question is just going to lead to what? Another question. Then you answer that question and it leads to what? Another question. And half an hour later, you're in convincing mode and sales mode, and you're selling pitch. Who likes being sold to? And do we, on this environment of GL, do we sell something? Right? You don't want to, because nobody likes being sold. And in the end, you'll get no, I'll come back to you. I'll think about it. Okay, I'll join a Zoom. But in reality, what do? They do nothing. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a little bit of background. My purpose of this training session is to help alleviate some of that anxiety that people get, and they don't want to share it because they think, what's that person going to say to me? Where I'm going to give you a tip or two to take away and actually practice. Okay, so you're not going to be able to change our ingrained psyche of how we respond to people answering questions in the next 45 minutes. Just not possible. But take away some of these. So really, some of these points. So I really hope you've got one of these. You know what that is? What's that? Okay.
Magic wand.
Magic wand. That's it. Look, there we go. Magic wand. And you've got some of this. What's that? All right. Not this. There we go. Thank you, Grady Silver. Write these down. Write this down as we're going through this, because the idea would be take this away to your groups, your communities. I know Candice, for example, in Wilderness has got a community together. The idea is you take this exercise that I'm going to try and do over Zoom. I have done it once before over Zoom, but it works a lot better with real life-size people, and actually do this as a role play. So Candice is going to come back on just now and actually role play this with me, so you can see the process of how we can teach each other how to respond and answer questions. Okay, so let's get straight. Let's get into this. I'm going to try and share my screen here. There we go. Whiteboard. Okay. Alrighty. Can you see that? Look at that whiteboard. Great. We're on 100. Just there we go. I'm starting and we're on 100 people. Okay. Now, I'm not an artist, but I'm going to try and draw something here. Where are we? Sorry, give me a second. Is that the pen? No, that's not the pen. Hang on a second. I've lost my pen. Give me a second. Come on. Sorry. Okay. So here's you. This is you. Happy chappy. Okay. Now you're starting out. So this is where you're beginning. And what you want to do is you want to progress forward. You see over here, you've got your goals. This is your reason, as Candice said, your why. Your goals are over here. Now your goals is what you want to achieve. So how do you go from over here where you start to your goals, when in between you've got these things called obstacles. It's like a wall. There's a wall of obstacles between you and your goals. Now, what are these obstacles? These obstacles are people. Here's the bad news and the good news. There we go, people. The great news is that we've got people. And the worst news is that we've got people, because it's these people which give us these objections and these questions. And you're just sitting here going, but don't you get it? I got it. And we forget that maybe it took us 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it was to actually, for it to click and go, oh, is this what GL's really about? But we've got to go through this, all of these obstacles, which is people. And one of the biggest challenges, as we've been talking about when you're talking to people, is how they respond. So that's what we're going to go through today, is teaching you how to handle the response, be it negative, positive, questions, it doesn't matter, from people. Okay? So how do we get from where we're starting to our goals? We need people. As much as that may be sad, we need them. Now, in our environment, minimum of 2. But there's many people on this call who are actually saying, you know what, I'm not going to stop at 2. If I can learn how I can maximize my time from this, there are way more lives that I can bless and I can change and I can influence and we can help. Because I know so many other people on pension, school teachers who earn peanuts, et cetera, et cetera. So the beginning starts with the question and answering the question. So when you're at school, you're taught to answer a question, okay? Right? When you're at work and the boss asks you a question, do you respond with a question or do you respond with the answer? Well, you respond with the answer. So we are taught and ingrained in our lives that if somebody asks you a question, that you need to respond with the answer. Now, what I'm going to show you today is that when somebody asks you a question, you respond with a question. Now, why is that so important? That is very important because when you ask yourself, well, who is in control of the conversation? Is it the person asking the question or is it the person answering the question? Who leads the conversation? Is it the person who is... Wait, apologies. Is it the person who's leading the question? Is it the conversation? Is it the person who's asking the question, one's answering? So when you are sitting in an interview, okay, and let me just actually get back onto here, right. When you're sitting in an interview, is the person who's interviewing you for this job, are they asking you questions? Yes, of course they are. And you're there to answer the question. So they're controlling it. All right. So if we take as a basic example, a basic scenario of you speaking to somebody about GL, they're asking you questions. Why? Because they're interviewing you. They want to find out if they want you. They want to find out if they want GL. So they are interviewing you. So they're in control. Here's the change in paradigm, which you need to try and go through. And it requires posture, which comes to confidence, but the posture and confidence comes over time. Is that you actually want to be speaking to these people. And in the back of your mind, you've got this thought, do I want to work with this person? Do I want to spend my time and energy helping this person understand how to maximize GL? Is this person's mindset the right type of mindset for the giving and receiving for our type of community and our environment? So you actually want to be the interviewer, not the interviewee. You're the one who actually wants to be interviewing them and going, I've got a choice here. Do I want to work with you or not? Now, how do I know that? How do I suss that out? I suss that out by asking questions. So you want to be the one leading the conversation and interviewing them. Yeah. So ask questions, listen to their answer. Ask questions, listen to their answer. In business world, you go to read any book on success, The people that are successful are the ones who are always asking the question, not giving the answers. That's just reality of business. So other people like to be asked questions because they think that, oh, that makes me feel important. This person cares about me. They're asking about me. They're asking my thoughts. They're asking about me. Whereas if you're the one answering, you're telling them everything. And the other person then doesn't feel as warm or as valued. So it's amazing psychology that we want to change. But now we've, through school, through our parents, I mean, imagine if as a child, some of you are parents on this call, and you've got your little 6-year-old, and 6-year-olds know it all, don't they? And you as the mom, say to your 6-year-old, why aren't you tidying your room? And the 6-year-old turns back and said, but why should I tidy my room? You as a parent are going to get really irritated by that, because you want the 6-year-old to go, but Mom, I don't like to. Do I have to? Because then the mom's in control. But now the parent's in control. But if the kid suddenly responds with a question, that's going to get. So the parent teaches the kids, you answer the question. I ask you a question, you answer my question. But here in this environment, you're going to ask a question, and then you're going to be asked a question, and you're going to respond with a question. So back onto my screen here. You're getting the idea of the thinking process behind this. So here's the art of what we are trying to do. The answer is in the question. That's your first point that you're going to write down. Okay? The answer is in the question. The one who controls the conversation is the one who's asking the question. In order for us to do this, we need to have a look at mindset and posture. Okay? So, and this takes time. Posture is something which is confidence, and that takes time in order for you to be able to be confident enough. Hence why we do role plays in this environment. Okay? Now I'm just referring to my notes here. Okay, to make sure that I stick on track. Okay, so we've spoken about interviews. We've spoken about spoken about mindset. So in the role play scenario of the exercises that we're going to do, there's 3 that you're actually going to do. Okay. The first exercise that we're going to do is we're going to be going through unrelated questions. Give my typing, unrelated questions. The next stage that we're going to do is we're going to be going through related questions. And then the third one we're going to do is acknowledging. So this one, acknowledgement? Well, it'll have to do. You know what I'm trying to say. Acknowledgement questions. And so this is a role play that Candice and I are actually going to go through. Now, when you do the role play, you're also going to time it. Why is timing so important? Well, it sort of puts you under pressure to starting to learn how to think. So this is not something that you're just going to go out straight and do. You're going to do this in a small group where you pair off, and you have two people, and you're going to go through the process that Candice and I are going to be actually talking about now. So Candice, you still there?
Yes, I am listening to your every word.
Fantastic. All righty. So you've got, where's, hang on a second. Okay, have you all written that down? Unrelated questions, related questions, and then acknowledgement of questions. Okay, so I'm back onto seeing people now. So Candice has got a little bit of preparation. I spoke to her just now, but she's never actually done this before. And when we were chatting earlier, she said, "Oh, I hope I get it right." And I said, "Well, I hope you get it wrong." Because when you learn is when you get things wrong. The idea is that you're not going to be smooth when you do this. That's why it's done as a role play, is to build confidence and understanding in the questions. And as I go through, when we get to the third one, the acknowledgement, that's where you're going to make notes of how you could actually respond. In the beginning, it might seem, well, that's a little bit uncomfortable. Okay. That's why you don't start with the acknowledgement question. You start with the unrelated question. Okay. So are you ready for this? Because this can get fun. This can get quite fun.
Let's do it.
Okay. So Candice and I are going to start going through this in pending time. We should have time. Maybe then somebody who wants to also give this a shot can join us on the Zoom. We can get some interaction with somebody else who says, okay, I want to also get this wrong, because getting it wrong means getting it right. Okay, so what's an unrelated question? An unrelated question is where I'm going to ask Candice a question. But remember, she's not going to answer it. Candice is going to ask me a question that's completely unrelated, that has no words that I've used within the question. Okay? So in reality, Candice is not really going to be listening to what I'm saying. She's just going to throw back another question. And that's very important, because the person who asks the question, how often have you had it that you've asked a question, somebody's trying to tell you the answer, but in your mind, what are you doing? You're not necessarily listening to the answer. You're thinking of the next question. Okay? That goes back to the fact that often the first question is not really the question. That's just they're trying to appear intelligent or important. Oh, I know. Oh, I've seen this. And so they just throw a question out. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've got to get my mind in the right place as well, so that yeah. Unrelated questions. Now we're going to do this for a minute. Let me just give me a second. Get my clock up here. Very important that you time it. Okay, very important that you time it. There we go. So we're going to do this for a minute, and we want to see, doesn't matter how many questions, but it just puts us under pressure to actually responding and not delaying. Okay, so let's go. Is the sea blue?
When did you start wearing glasses?
That fence, do you think it's straight?
Have you eaten yet?
Was your tea hot this morning?
Do you drink coffee?
Should we meet up this afternoon for lunch?
Are you free from 9 o'clock this evening?
Is your dog black?
Do you have cats?
Do you like flying to new countries?
Have you started that water sports that you were telling me about the other day?
And that'll do the end. Okay. Now, it might seem silly listening, but Candice, how easy was that?
No, it wasn't easy. I had to think on my feet. Because I wanted to say something related. It was difficult to go unrelated completely.
Yeah, very much. And even then there was a relation, because I spoke about dog and you spoke about cat. So there was a little bit of connection, but that's what your mind does. And you see, so you need to practice this backwards and forwards a couple of times just to get used to asking the question. So you're teaching your mind to not answer, but just to ask. Okay, that's the first one. You've written that down. Unrelated questions. Now the next one is related questions. And in theory, it gets easier. Well, should we see if it actually does?
Yeah.
So a related question is going to be where, and Candice, you're going to start, is where then you're going to ask me a question. I have to ask you another question, but linked to that. So one of the words that you've used, I have to use in my question. So it's a question related. So this time I actually have to listen, because I've got to pick one of those words, and the brain's got to think another question connected with this topic. You ready?
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Wait. There we go. 1 minute. And
okay. So Tim, why are there birds flying in the sky?
Do aeroplanes fly?
So Tim, do you like coffee or tea?
My tea has to be hot. What about yours?
Tim, is the sky cloudy where you are?
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Candice has now gone back to unrelated questions.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we were supposed to keep everything related, one question after the other.
One question after the other. Got to be connected. Got to be connected. There's got to be connection between all of them. Okay, so let's go. Okay, you want to go? Ask me a question.
So do you like drinking tea with your breakfast?
Do you eat breakfast?
Do you eat pork?
Does pork come from cows?
Are cows all one color?
The color of the sky today is gray. Is the color of the sky today gray?
Why are you looking so gray?
I think gray is a sign of intelligence. What about you?
Why do you look so intelligent today with your glasses on?
Do you not think I'm intelligent? Yeah, Astra's having a laugh.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Time. All right. How was that this time, Candice?
I found that was a little bit more difficult, but I think it was because I was asking the questions. So I wasn't in the same role as I was before.
Started, right. So in a role play scenario, different people can ask, but started. But in reality, it doesn't matter as long as the question is related. But I mean, my hands have got all sweaty and sticky. Because you think, okay, I got to think, okay, color, okay, the sky is white, okay. And then I got it wrong twice. Did anybody count that? Where I had to correct myself, where I actually answered, and I gave a comment. I didn't give a question. So even, because that's just the way that it goes. Okay? All right, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we want to do is, in a role play scenario, you're actually going to go through this a number of times. Obviously, we've only got an hour together today. I want you to get the idea of it, make notes of it. So we're unrelated questions where you're asking questions of each other, where there's no connection to it for 1 minute. Very important that you always time it. And then in a role play scenario, you then swap around. The other person would begin and so on. They're going to do this a couple of times. And then the next one is the related question, where one person will start and then the other person will start, but where there has to be a correlation or one of those words in each question, the other person's going to ask back with another question. You want to just make sure that you can get through the whole minute, always just answering a question with a question. So the next one is the acknowledgement. Now, I'll give you an example to what's an acknowledgement. And then we're actually going to use it in an environment. Now, sometimes at the beginning, you may think that this is a bit rude because you're not answering the question. But when you understand and realize, and you've got the posture in yourself, that you're the one who's interviewing them, then it gets to feel a lot more comfortable. Right? The acknowledgement question is very important for a couple of things. Number one, it buys you time. Okay? So you don't have to think off the seat of your pants like we were just doing now. It buys you time. And the next one is, you do not need all the answers. Candice, are you still learning about GL and the whole process, everything that we're doing? Are you still learning now? Or do you know everything?
Geez, I learn every single day. Is that a question, or am I supposed to acknowledge it, or are you asking me for real? Yeah, I learn every single day is a lesson for me. I promise you. Like, you think you know everything, and then another curveball comes in, or somebody has a question, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, we didn't even think about that." So yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
You learn every single day. Have you ever spoken to somebody and they've turned around to you and they go, "Yes, I'm in, but I want to know everything first"? Have you ever had that? I have. There we go. Yeah, a couple of people nodding.
I was one of those people.
You are your own worst enemy, right? And okay, apart from you, how many of those people actually then start or join and do something?
Yeah, too overwhelming.
Because if you waited to know all the answers to everything, you would still be waiting. So here's the key thing, and this is critical for anybody new coming into this environment, just as much as it is for you who pretends to know it all. Okay? You don't need to answer the question. You see, if Candice, in all of her knowledge and experience, was answering all of the questions absolutely smoothly, and the person thought, wow, that's interesting, I didn't realize, and she could just answer those questions, and the person was as convinced as ever. Here's why they won't do anything. Because they'll turn around and go, I could never do that. I could never talk to people like you talk to people. Wow, Candice, you're so passionate about this GL. You know exactly, you're selling it so amazingly. I could never do that. It's not for me. Okay, so this section of the acknowledgement question is important for the new people coming in, that they don't have to answer everything because they don't even know how to spell gift of legacy. And it's important for everybody who's been in this environment for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever, to not appear as know-it-alls. So it in fact is for everybody. Okay? We have a system in GL, Chris and Candice, and with the training everybody's doing, and we're putting together, and with Dr. Luaco and his knowledge and experience, and with Angela and Petra and everybody coming together. There's a system that's been created, which is a lot of training, and Chris is busy fine-tuning the A to Z, which is going to be on the website very soon. And in there, we were chatting yesterday, and he's telling me what's in there, and I'm like, wow, that is so much information. Well, that's the system. So you want to be able to plug people into the system to get the answer. I've said it before. You want to be the message, not the messenger. Okay. Because that way the new people can go, but I don't know everything. Yeah, sure you don't know everything, but do you know where to get the information from? Yes, I do. Great, and share it with those other people. So, acknowledgement question. This is the psychology process behind it. First thing you're going to do is answer, and make a note, get your pen and paper down. That's a very good question. Or, thank you for asking that question. That's actually a very good question. You're doing a couple of things. You're agreeing with them. You're smiling, you're nodding your head. And they think, oh, wow, I asked a good question. I didn't think it was good. You're like, wow, okay. Then, in that time that you're acknowledging, you're then thinking about, but what's the question I'm going to ask them? Because you want to ask a question back. Now, a very simple question to answer back in the beginning, and there's a couple of things that you can do, but we don't want to get too complicated. Maybe as Candice and I, we're going to banter just now. But when we do it, so we're going to switch roles as well. But when I'm going to do it, I might come up with a few other ones, and that seems to work very smoothly for me. And the only reason why some of it may seem to work smoothly, and I'll just do it without thinking, is because I've been doing this for years. All right. So if you haven't been doing it for years, you think, whoa, believe me, when I first started, and if you go back to a mentor of mine since 2008, Martin Mester, and you asked him, what was I like at the beginning? He would tell you, Tim Wagner, were the worst ever. You never did what I told you to do. You tried to create everything yourself. You tried to redo everything yourself. You tried to be better than everything yourself. And you try to bring all your experience and knowledge from hospitality into this environment and tell people what to do. He'll tell you that. Did it work? And I'll say, no. He says, okay, let's just start at the beginning. Okay. So Candice and I maybe seen that we can do this a lot easier, but we did not start off like this. Am I right, Candice?
Well, I've never even done this before, so let's see what happens.
All right. Okay, so I'm chatting to Candice. Candice has seen the presentation, and now I asked Candice, again, a little bit off script here quickly. Candice, sorry, so this is not related, but it's a very, very valid point for somebody once they've seen, once your friend, family, or somebody that Sylvia you meet in the supermarket, wherever, and they've seen it. People have a habit of saying to them, what did you think? Okay. Did you like it? Now, those are death questions. You see, they're not knowledgeable enough in order to really have an opinion. And me, I'm not so interested in their opinion because I know GL, I know the validity, etc. Okay, I believe in it, I know it, I know way more than them on it, I've been involved in it, so I'm not really looking for their opinion on it. So I'm not going to ask them, what did you think? I think it's a pyramid scheme is the answer, or one of those revolting things that come back. Okay. So the first question you're actually going to ask them would be a question, a positive question. What did you like most?
Am I answering?
What did, well, we're going to answer that just now. That's why I said this one's off script a little bit. But so often that you'll have somebody, they'll see the presentation and you ask them, what do you think? And I'm saying to you, that's a death question. Mm. They aren't educated enough at this stage to have an opinion about, GL's been put together by so many clever minds from all over the world over the past 9, 12 months, plus all the decades of experience before, for me to really be interested in one person's response to what did you think? So that's why I say, what did you like most? Yeah, so that's just a suggestion question for you, aside from what we're talking about. Let's get back onto script now.
What I like about that though, Tim, is like, if you said to somebody, what did you think, or did you like it? They can lie. They can say, yeah, no, it was great. And they didn't actually watch it. But if you ask them, what did you like most about it? They have to tell you a part of the video that they watched. And then if they haven't watched it, you'll know as well.
So true. So true. Yeah, because you're interviewing them. Okay, so Candice. And I said to Candice when we did this, she's welcome to try and catch me out. Okay, because it doesn't matter. It's fine. So we're back onto the role play scenario. It became fine for time. Back onto role play scenario. Candice is somebody that I've met, and I shared this. I followed the AIDA system, so I've got her attention, I've got her interest. I've piqued her desire because now she's gone from the 7-minute video, and you notice I'm going back to the AIDA. If you don't know what AIDA is, write it down. Okay, AIDA. Attention, interest, desire, and action. It's the training process that Chris and Candice does. Phenomenal one, and that's exactly where we're aligned to this. And now Candice has seen the presentation. I'm then chatting to Candice, but I'm new at this. And I don't really know my way around, but I'm going to try and get back to the training that this guy showed me, which is about questions. So Candice is going to throw a question at me or an objection. And for 1 minute, we're going to go around where Candice is, for want of a better word, the prospect or the person that I'm chatting to bring them into, or introduce them into GL. Okay? Okay. So Candice, you're going to begin and you're going to ask me a question, throwing an objection or a question at me, whichever one you want. Hang on a second. I need to get my clock on. There we go. You ready?
Yeah. So Tim, I watched this presentation and it sounds really great, but how can one person just give $100 and then get $800 back? That just doesn't, that sounds so scammy to me. It doesn't sound good.
That's actually a very good question. And when I first started, I had exactly that same question. So Candice, if I answered the question, would you have any more questions?
Yes, I have so many questions.
Well, would it be okay if you gave me all these questions so that I then knew where you were at and we can take it from there? Is that fair enough?
Yeah. You want my next question?
You have.
Okay, so you're saying just find 2 people. Well, I have a very difficult time finding 2 people. I work alone and I don't get out much, so it's very difficult for me to find 2 people.
Okay, so I'm going to take it that was a question. The question is,
how do I find? Yeah.
You know, Candice, that's actually a very valid and very, very specific question that I know a lot of people do struggle with. So you've asked me 2 questions so far. Do you have any more questions?
How do you know for sure that this is 100% legal?
Now, again, a phenomenal question, and I had exactly the same thought process on that. So here's what we can do. We can go backwards and forwards, and I can answer all your questions. However, would it be better if I could introduce you to somebody who's actually got all those answers? You see, I'm very new at this. And I want to make sure that you've got all the correct information. So would it be okay for me to introduce you to somebody who has the answer to these questions? Because I would also like to hear what they have to say.
How long is this going to take? I don't have time. What does this entail?
Excellent. Well, this evening at 8 o'clock, Chris and Candice, who are mentors of mine, are doing a presentation. And I know they're going to be covering the answer to all those questions and probably other questions that you haven't asked me yet. Would you believe it? Would you find it valuable to, for 1 hour, jump on the call this evening and hear what they have to say?
Do I have to ask the questions on the Zoom? I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
That's a very valid point. So if you only had to listen for 1 hour and afterwards you thought, okay, that's interesting, I would like to know more, or you're welcome to, once you've got your questions answered, say to me, Tim, I've got my answers and it's not for me. It's okay. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. Well done. Well, we did 2.5 minutes then. Brilliant. Well done. Okay. So there was actually quite a few things that came into that. I don't know if everybody picked it up, but let me ask Candice, put yourself into the mindset of the new person having a look at this. How do you feel after I answered your questions with questions? How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like you were listening to what I was saying and you were providing me with a solution to my questions without actually answering the questions.
Right. Okay. Now, you see, I can answer all the questions, the Ponzi, I don't have 2 people, I don't have time, is it worth it, and all that. I can answer all of those. And that's going to take, what, half an hour, an hour? Because then you're going to have another question to throw at me, and you're going to think, oh, I didn't think of that. Now I've got another question to answer. Okay. Well, we did that in 2.5 minutes. So if you're speaking to, you want to get 10 people in, you know that you need to, you want to get 2 people in, you know you need to speak to 10 in order to get 2. So you're speaking to 10 people. Can you speak to 10 people over the phone for 2.5 minutes? Or would you want to speak to 10 people over the phone for 1 hour each? It's actually a time-saving, it's time-saving thing as well. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I brought in there. Make a note of this one. I'm new at this. I've recently joined. Now, why is that important? If you can bring that in at the beginning when the person first, when you're doing that follow-up with them, you say, I'm still learning, I'm new at this. Now, it's important one to actually add right at the beginning when you're starting the questions and answers or the conversation. It's because then when Candice is throwing these questions at me, I can actually go, you remember I said I'm new at this? That's actually a very good question. I would also like to know the answer. Now, perhaps you do know the answer, but that's not the point. You don't want to be the magic. You want to hook them into the system. You know what? There's actually a video that Candice, she's helping me build this business, or Chris, or whoever is helping me, that they said there's a video. If I sent that video to you, it's only a short one. You found the answer. Would that help? So then you're just referring back to the system. You're not being the magic. Yeah. So that's a one point that I brought up in there. I'm new at this. I'm still learning. And then the next one is use the people who are doing the presentations. Candice, maybe you've never met her before, but she's still a mentor of yours. Why? Because she's online on Zooms twice, 3, 4 times a week. If you connect with Chris because of his business background, or you connect with Angela because of her entertainment, use any of the presenters. Use me if you're really struggling to find someone. It doesn't matter. As a mentor of yours. You're welcome to. Am I right, Candice?
100%, because that's what we are when we stand up and represent. We are the mentors and the representatives for the system that we're talking about.
Exactly. Now we're all volunteers and all that type of stuff, and anybody's welcome to join us. But because then you're going to do edification. I did a training session recently on the Zoom presentations. I'm not going to edification much at the moment. There's no time for it, but it would be where, if let's say that I want Candice to get onto a Zoom and listen to Chris. I'm actually going to tell Candice about Chris, that he's a businessman, very successful. He's put together this. He's got a great team. He's phenomenally very successful at this. He's been doing it for many years, and I'm learning from him. So the Candice actually wants to go, oh, I want to listen to this Chris. I don't listen to you, Tim. You don't know anything. you're learning from Chris. I don't learn from you. I want to learn from who you're learning from. Okay. Oops, my stopwatch is still running. Reset. You ready to swap roles?
Oh, okay. Let's get out of the comfort zone.
We're gonna do exactly the same thing, but now you're the one sharing GL with me, and I'm going to come up with questions for Candice. And Candice is going to do the acknowledgement, which, just as a reminder, is just the buying time. It's the acknowledgement. Thank you. That's a very good question. I appreciate that question. Anything that flows with you easily in your term, in your wording on that way, and then ask me a question. Okay.
Perfect. Let's go.
Sure, Candice. That was interesting, but is it worth it?
Chris, that's a very good question. One that's very difficult to answer with a question. Tim, that's a very good question. And, I had that question when I first started as well. But before we carry on, do you have any other questions so that I can maybe answer all of them and we can do that together?
Yeah, sure. I actually do. How long has GL been around for?
I'm quite new at this. So that's actually something that I never thought to ask when they were telling me. I was quite excited and I actually didn't really ask a lot of questions. So I'm going to get back to you on that. Or, there's a presentation tonight where they go through the history of sacred economics. And maybe you want to join me with that.
Sure. Another time to sit on a Zoom. I really don't think I've got the time for that.
I understand life is so busy, but if you came to the Zoom and something in that Zoom answered all of your questions, don't you think that maybe in the future it would allow more time for you?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. But who are these people who are talking on these Zooms?
So I really enjoy watching Tim and Petra on a Wednesday because they really bring a lovely mix of self-development, which I really enjoy. And I find it's really helpful because I'm changing my lifestyle. And they also just bring a really great professional element to the way that they talk.
I really want to change my lifestyle. I love my lifestyle. I live a wonderful lifestyle. I don't want to join to change my lifestyle. Why would I do that?
So I hear what you're saying. You're saying that you have a wonderful lifestyle, but you just said now that you don't have time. So wouldn't you like more time?
The reason I don't have time, okay, we can go backwards and forwards on this. Okay, I'm trying to catch Candice up because, in fact, thank you very much for actually, round of applause. Okay, round of applause. Have a sip of your tea or your coffee there. There we go. All right. How did that feel for you?
It was nerve-wracking because it's something that I haven't done before. I'm so used to answering questions and also just from my background of being a boss, I was the fixer. I had to have all the solutions. So I was very much out of my comfort zone. But in the same breath, saying that I acknowledge just gave me a little bit of breathing space so that I could figure out what question I could come back with. So it definitely did help me.
Excellent. And did you see right towards the end there, you start to convince me because pull back into the thing. Now, reason why I responded back onto the where you said your lifestyle and a couple of other words is perhaps that's not my reason for actually doing this. It might be yours, but I'm not going to relate to it because it's not mine. Okay. Oh, Candice is frozen in a smile. So, okay, we wait for it. Jane, she's frozen. You still there, Candice? Where are we for time here? Okay, running out. So that's also another very important point. I'm very, very happy why Candice, that Candice actually fell into that trap, is because that might be Candice's reason. She wants a better lifestyle or an improved lifestyle or more time, but that might not be what's valuable for me. Okay, so she's dropped off. Let's see, she's going to come back. Hey, Wi-Fi. All right. She could listen to the recording. Okay, we're not going to stop waiting. So it was great because now Candice was thinking, well, maybe, lifestyle is important to me. And I said, I'm happy with my lifestyle. Thank you very much. No, if this is about improving lifestyle, whatever, or I'm a very antisocial person, I don't want to get together on a Saturday afternoon with all these happy, clappy, excited people. It's not my thing. Forget about it. So, so you've got to be very careful about relating your reason. You can say to people, this is my reason why I'm doing this. What is your reason? Okay, so again, you're going to go back to asking the question. Candice did something else very, very good as well, where she kept praising me. Did anybody pick that up? Okay. That's actually a very good question. You know what? I never actually thought of that. Thank you for bringing that up, or however she put it. She actually praised me. It made me feel good. It made me feel important. Again, I'm being listened to. Okay. So Candice tried to convince me to go onto a Zoom. Now, maybe I do, maybe I don't want to go onto one. Well, if I say, look, I've already seen one, then perhaps what you would do is set up a one-on-one or a three-way WhatsApp call, for example, with your direct mentor. And the person says, look, I've already been on one. I've got all these questions. You're not answering any of my questions. Say, well, I tell you what if you had 10 minutes? Ah, there's Candice. You're back.
Sorry about that.
You froze with a very cheesy grin.
Yeah, I actually took a screenshot because everybody had cheesy grins. It was quite cool.
So I was just actually saying, Candice, when you were asking me questions, you did a phenomenal thing by you kept praising me. You would identify and you'd say, wow, that's actually a very good question. I never thought of that question. That's actually a very nice, that's actually a very good question, because then it makes me feel heard, as you said, and important. Yeah. All right. Candice, have you got any other, because we're running out of time, we're getting to a point here. Is there anything that you, after you've now done this with me, is there anything that you would like to add emphasis to this, or something else? You were talking about how it made you feel and it breaks you out of comfort zone when you froze.
Yeah, so I think, before you go and meet someone or before you decide to pick up the phone, it's really important to just energetically get yourself into a relaxed space, because this is something that has to be shared from the heart. It's not logical. The person that you're speaking to is going to be searching for logic, as we all know, and it's not. So we had an exercise done right in the beginning with the precursor program where, she actually spoke to us about lowering your walls and barriers. So let's say you're meeting somebody for coffee and you're in the car and now your palms start sweating. You're thinking about how you're going to start the conversation, where you're going to bring it in, and then automatically you get anxious. So when you start feeling like that, you just take 3 deep breaths, put your hand on your heart, maybe one on your heart, one on your solar plexus, and just take those 3 deep breaths. And then you literally can do this with your hands and push down your walls and barriers. Obviously, don't do it in the restaurants because your friend will run a mile. And when you're doing that, just get into a relaxed state of mind, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that they can say to you is no, and is it going to hurt you? Is it going to end your life? Are you going to feel so rejected that you won't be able to talk to anybody? No, a no is just a no. And like somebody said in the chat, so what? That beautiful thing that Chris says.
Yes.
So just get into that relaxed state of mind. And what you can even do is imagine just pulling energy through your feet from the earth out into the sky, and then pull it back down through your body, back into the earth. And then you can just play and imagine, use your imagination. Just imagine all this energy swirling around you, and you can pull it from the back of you through your heart, and then through the person who you're going to meet's heart and through the back of them. And at the same time that you're imagining that, imagine now energy being pulled through the back of them, through their heart and into yours. And that will get you connected to them energetically. Even if you don't believe in it, just give it a try. Just give it a try, because even just while doing that exercise, you yourself are going to get into a relaxed state of mind. And when you go and you speak to them, don't launch into it. Absolutely not. Speak about life, catch up. And, I was saying to my dad the other day, with your friends, especially with your friends that you haven't spoken to for a long time, you've almost got to rekindle that friendship first. And if it takes 1 or 2 or 3 meetings, where you don't even talk about them joining. You just talk about it as a matter of fact, like, you know, you would a new job or getting a new dog. You just talk about it as it being in your life. Eventually, they will ask, you know, tell me more about that. But if they don't, rekindle that friendship first, because there's nothing worse when you're calling someone that you haven't spoken to for a long time and you start talking about an opportunity. That, even just saying that, gets the hair on my back standing up, because automatically, even though your intentions are pure and you want to help them and you want to bring them into this because you love them, they're going to think, oh, I haven't spoken to her for such a long time and now she's calling me for some sort of a scheme. It's automatic. It's human emotion. So yeah, play with the energies, lower your walls and barriers. Even if you just do this, automatically they will come down. Stay in your heart. And yeah, if they start asking you questions that make you feel uncomfortable, I love the acknowledgement of the questions, and also just answering with a question, because then you are interviewing them. You know, when Tim was talking, I was thinking, if somebody had to start asking me questions, I would put my hand on their arm and go, how much time do you really have to devote to this? Because in the beginning I was saying, no, you don't need a lot of time. But actually we all know that we do need to make time for this. And if it's important to us, we will. So yeah, that's all I have to say. But I do think it's really important to rekindle those friendships first before you start talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And don't feel obligated to answer all the questions. It's not. Candice says when you maybe meet them in a coffee shop or something like that, I would personally avoid speaking about GL. Yes, you want to connect with them, because when you're face to face and they suddenly have all these things, it's difficult for you to escape. So what I'm speaking about, this sort of questions thing, is much easier done over the phone. But doing it face to face is a lot more difficult. So don't put yourself in that pressure spot. And over time, you'll pick up some other tips and things when you're chatting to people of how to make it even easier for you. As Candice said, just keep your energy low. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Put yourself in the position where then you can control that conversation. And face-to-face is a lot more difficult. Pick up the phone. So one example would be, can you rekindle that relationship, Candice says, and you're chatting, and they say to you, wow, what are you doing right now? Say, look, I'd love to share that with you, but tell me more about your kids or your dog or your family, whatever, because you remember, you want to be in control. You're asking the questions. And then the next day you phone them and say, listen, I don't know why I didn't think of it then, but I'm busy with this very exciting gifting economy. And then you can connect, but you pick them up over the phone. Because if you try to say to them, you know, I'm actually busy with this gifting economy, they look at you a bit odd, and then you end up by trying to explain them. And the next thing, you're taking out a napkin and you're drawing little circles out there, and you've lost them. And they think, oh, this guy's cuckoo. And then they think the only reason why you wanted to reconnect and rekindle the relationship is because you want to sell me something. Right?
Yeah. And you can do that energy work even if you're phoning someone in Alaska and you're in South Africa. It will still work. So before you pick up the phone, do that little bit of breathing, get into your heart space, play with the energy, and have fun with it. It's not something that you need to get right. It's just playing with the energy, and you'll just see what a difference it makes. The person will be so open and receptive to everything that you have to say. And hopefully they don't ask you those difficult questions.
Well, if they ask you a difficult question, you now know how to answer it. Answer it with a question. Wow, that's a very interesting question. It's actually quite a difficult one. I would also like to know the answer. So what if you joined me and we met up with Candice quickly on a three-way WhatsApp call where we could ask her that question?
And you know, that's exactly what happened with Deb. She's still on the call. She phoned me and she was telling me all about it. And I was like, I don't understand. And then she sent me everything that her friend had sent her. And I actually landed up in Cape Town and I was asking her all these questions because I came from a business mind. And then she said, you know what? I'm also new. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just as confused. Let's get Debbie, the other Debbie that brought us in. Let's get her on a video call and we can both chat to her. So Deb, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. So well done.
Fantastic. Well, I hope this has been a useful 1 hour of your Saturday morning. For those who are in the Mossel Bay area, want to meet up for a connection and chit chat or what have you, do join us this afternoon from 2 till 4. And let's get more people on these Saturdays. If you found value in it, maybe somebody else is also going to find value. And you were probably sitting here going, "Ooh, this person needs to be on the call. I wish that person had heard what Candice said. Oh, that person needed to hear that." Well, that's why it's recorded.